Yo, yo, guys, I hope we're all well. Hope we're keeping well, chilling, having a good time. We are here today with the Tales of Xillia review. I'm pretty excited to do this one. It's a game I'm pretty passionate about, put it that way. Well, let's get myself on the screen. Boom, there we are. Hey, guys, hope we're well. This late evening, it's like, 11 PM where I am currently. Today I'm joined with a good friend, Jack. How you doing, man?
Good evening, games. Yeah, good man. How are you?
Yeah, keeping well. It's I quite like that, by the way. Good evening, gamers. That's that's got a ring to it, hasn't it? It's nerdy in a beautiful way. I think it suits us, mate. Good evening, gamers. Put a little accent on it. Today we're doing Tales of Xillia, but before we do that, we're going to do our usual. I'm going to call it the casual conversation. I think that's got a little ring to it as well. Before we get into the main crux of the review, and basically what we're going to do, as always, we're going to discuss what we've been playing, what we plan to play, maybe talk a little bit about the Dialect because of the last stream, and go from there if you want to, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good to me.
Hell yeah. Well, I think a good place to start is, what have you been playing then, man? What have you actually been playing recently? Anything new?
For me, it's a lot of. So, do you get what I say when I say sort of modern retro?
Okay.
So like modern retro game. So there's a lot of. I've played, done a little bit more Shovel Knight since last time.
How are you finding that so far? Because I know you played it a little bit, but you're probably further into it now.
You know what? It's really good. It's I finished that Black Knight level, which is I just didn't like that guy. he irritated me for a little bit, but I got through there. I did I think the one after that as well, but left it there mainly just because we're playing Sonic Mania. That's taken up the majority of my time there. It's a great game.
One big chef's kiss from me. Sonic Mania it's grand. I love that game, dude. I love that game. I played it for the first time last year. I was late to the party, but wow. I loved that game. It took me probably, I want to say, a good few hours, and as soon as I beat it, I went for another playthrough instantly. It's that kind of game where you just want to keep getting better at it, if you know what I mean.
That's it, yeah. I love the Mania mode, don't get me wrong. I've played through, I think I'm in the sixth zone or something on Mania mode on the main save, but I mean, it's encore mode for me, does it? It's because you unlock all the characters and you kind of, you either die and change, or you hit a little box and you get to change or whatever. But it's just so fun being able to play all of the characters in that same, when you've gone through a zone as one, you're like, well, I wonder what Tails would be like on that. I wonder what Mighty would be like on that.
Yeah, of course.
It's really fun.
The replayability of those sorts of games is so high, isn't it? And you know what? I find it's one of the most rewarding sort of algorithms to get better at. Once you do a level really quickly, you don't forget it. It becomes sort of like muscle memory.
That's it, yeah. I know with going through yesterday when I was doing the first Green Hill one on Encore instead of Mania, I've sped through it so quick. I'm like, maybe I have learnt a little bit.
But, for sure.
Because I didn't play it so much. I didn't play so much 2D side scrollers growing up, apart from sort of New Super Mario Bros, that kind of thing. But the difficulty spike between that and I think any Sonic game, to be fair, is quite advanced.
I completely agree.
I didn't realise that at one point.
Yeah, honestly, dude, I completely agree. I love both series, as a lot of people know, and as yourself, as you all are aware, sorry. I love Mario and Sonic, but I think the games are so different as well. Despite them being 2D platformers, I think I could fall asleep playing Mario. If I was playing it very casually, I could be like, oh, that was a nice feel. Sit back, relax, maybe Nintendo DS, Switch in hand. Very sort of casual experience, unless you're playing it to obviously a high level. But Sonic, wow, I'm sat forward, I'm in gamer pose, I have to concentrate. Defo couldn't fall asleep playing it, because, I need to be on it with the momentum physics, especially. That's what I love about the 2D ones. It's a very different experience to 3D, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to be okay at playing Mario on the DS. I was okay at one stage. I could probably speed run through New Super Mario Bros. On DS in probably, about 3 hours. If you knew the shortcuts and everything, you could probably do it in about 3 hours or less.
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. There's World 1, there's the jump pipe right near the tower, right?
That's it, yeah. And you have the cannons in it. where you have to unlock the cannons.
Yeah,
I
there's
think that gets you to like World 5.
World 5 is then to World 8, I want to say.
I think so. Yeah, you can go from World 1 to 5 to 8. I think. So it's easily doable within like 2-3 hours. Whereas sort of like even Mania now, I've probably played it for at least 8 hours, and I'm only on like Zone 6.
It's not an easy game. It's not an easy game, especially if it's your first Sonic game.
Yeah.
You can probably get through it, ironically, quicker if you get good at it. But again, the learning curve is huge, man. It's huge. I reckon I'd probably do Mania in about 2.5 hours, is my guess. 2.5 to 2 hours. Which is, I feel like an okay, respectable time, but there's people out there that could probably do it in under an hour.
That is sickening. Like I can see how it's done, definitely, but it's like I'm not that brave. I don't take chances with it. I'm like, I'll do a little jump there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Run a little bit there.
The only one I can probably
Whereas
do in an
like
hour is like Sonic 2.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever play much of the retro Sonic games?
I think the only one I played was Sonic 3. To be fair, and that was only for like a couple of days. I think we used to sort of like swap games in school, so I swapped that for something that week. Played it for like a couple of hours and then gave it back.
Honestly, at a young age, I would not have been bothered with it. It's a hard game. It's genuinely not easy. Retro games kick my butt sometimes.
That's it, yeah. I think you forget as well what growing up. Well, I've definitely played games that I played as a kid, like the original Crash Bandicoot. As a kid, I was alright at that game. As an adult, I suck at it. I'm absolutely awful.
As your reactions slow down and you get older, you lose some of the gamer instincts, right? I feel like I'm okay with platformers, but if I went to play like a first-person shooter now online, like I used to grow up on like Call of Duty, Halo, you know, those sorts of games. If I went and did that now, I'd get my ass kicked, dude. I would do not stand a chance.
Even in like zombies, and like zombies aren't. It's not difficult in comparison to sort of online play. And I can't play zombies. I'm awful.
Yeah, there's no way I'm getting around 38/42 somewhere around there anymore. I'd take around 10. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah, 10 to 15 now.
And that's a decent run, that is. I used to remember, right, I feel like I'm probably not the only one who's experienced this. You guys might be able to relate, but I used to not go toilet, not eat, until that zombies run was done. I just didn't exist outside of the game. Like, if I needed to go to the toilet, I wasn't waiting. I know there was that method of keeping the crawler, but I was like, nah, I'll hold out. You know, I'll sit forward, I could be brave. I'd do the run in one go, and then after a few hours, I'd sprint, just like to refresh before the next game. That's the exact boat I was in.
The mindset I had was like, if I need to wee or anything, like, it will make me more on edge. So I'm more alert then.
You're not wrong. I hadn't thought about that, but you're genuinely just not wrong.
Yeah.
It heightens your senses.
Yeah, definitely. But as an adult, it's not so good. My kidney function is definitely down. So
that's a good evening gamers moment right there.
Yeah, that's definitely a mug moment.
Yeah, 100%, man. I guess the next thing to go on to is there anything you've got like sort of planned for your next game to play, or do you think it's just got to keep being like Shovel Knight and Sonic for a little bit?
You know what, I think I do want to get a 3D Sonic to see what they're like. I'm thinking Frontiers. I've still got to play Frontiers. It's like, from listening to the soundtrack and everything to it, I've seen some gameplay of it. It just looks so good. I can't put it off any longer. Sorry,
my face right now. I'm just like, mwah, chef's kiss. Do it. Sonic Frontiers is, while not an amazing game. It might not even be a good game, but I do love it. Yeah. I love it. The soundtrack I rated probably my favourite soundtrack of last year, and I played I'd say a fair amount. I beat like roughly around 70 games, and to say it was my favourite soundtrack, yeah, it was fantastic, dude. Absolutely adored the Sonic Frontiers soundtrack, and I know you know some of the tracks as well.
Yeah, I love some of that soundtrack. I mean, even like the actual music, the level soundtracks, of just like the music in them, it's brilliant.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think my favourite, if I had to pick, I don't know if I could pick one. I could pick two. Vandalize, the trailer song, which honestly, crazy good. If you're not listening to it, I can't put it on right now for obvious reasons, but guys, go listen to it. Vandalize,
Yeah.
One OK Rock, amazing track. And then I think my other favourite's probably Find Your Flame, if you've heard that one.
Find Your Flame's great as well. That's the one with Kellen Quinn?
Yeah, man. He does such a good
Yeah,
job on it.
yeah.
Such a good job.
Yeah.
To the point where, right, just from
good.
personal opinion, I wasn't a huge fan of the band Sleeping with Sirens, but now, whenever their music comes on, I'm like, yo, I love this song. I love this band. Why? Did the Sonic soundtrack. Because he kills it in them songs, man. He kills it. So for that reason, I'm like, you never know. They might release a song along them lines and I'd love it. You know what I mean?
You know what? Yeah, absolutely. I know people who felt the same way when I know people who don't really like Avenged Sevenfold. I wasn't a massive Avenged Sevenfold fan, but then they did the soundtrack for I think it was Zombies on Black Ops. Was it Black Ops 2?
Yes, I want to say so.
Was it Not Ready to Die or something?
It was on. Was it Deriz or Deriz? I can't quite remember the names now. To be honest, it's been so long.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I think it was on Deriz, wasn't it? But yeah, like since that, when that was playing, I'm like, this is very thematic. I do like it.
Chats agreed with us.
You know what? The band's okay.
Yeah, 100%. It gives you that sort of it's like the gateway into it. The chat agreed with us about the Frontier soundtrack, by the way. It is really good. So I'm glad they're on that same wavelength.
Yeah.
Sonic has a series, to be honest. I bet you're loving the sort of like retro synthwave that Mania has.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's great as well. And you obviously had tracks from back in the day, like Live and Learn.
Oh,
That was great.
I'd love to learn to play that one day. Either that or is it Rooftop Run, where it's like it's got that sort of slap bass start to it. It's great. It is awesome. So one day when I pick up the bass singing, 'cause it's been a little while now, but when I pick it up, that'd be a good one to learn.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That would definitely be fun.
I think the next place to go, Nintendo Direct, because we spoke briefly about it. We'll chop and change because we've got a lot to get through today, guys. So we're going to move on swiftly because we have got content to get through. So yeah, Nintendo Direct. What did you think? If you had to give me like an honest opinion and maybe like a score out of 10 for your own, this is all personal preference, of course.
For personal preference, I'll probably say that the only real thing that I probably would play, and it's kind of for the meme, to be honest, would be the Super Monkey Ball stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool announcement.
Otherwise, you know what? I'm just not. I, as I said last time, I wanted more like Nintendo IP stuff, and it was all purely third party, really.
Yes, we didn't expect that. No one really predicted it on the internet, from what I could see.
Yeah. It's like, I've got no problem with it, and you know it's nice to see that they're getting more third party stuff. But it's I do like the Switch for Nintendo IP stuff, really.
Yeah.
So it's not my cup of tea, but I mean I get why people might like it. I can't even remember most of the titles now, but probably give it sort of a 4 out of 10, maybe 5.
I think that's a valid take, man. That's a valid take. I think I'm on a similar boat, like a 5 out of 10, because I think it's perfectly serviceable. And if you're into that sort of thing, then yeah, you've got your choices and options available. Yeah. There was one game that piqued my interest, just one. Speaking of like the retro style that you mentioned earlier, like retro games in the modern style, there's a game called Pepper Grinder that only got about 10 seconds. So I forgive people completely for missing it. But if you guys did miss it, I think it's got a longer trailer on Nintendo's channel. It's a side-scrolling platforming game where you literally play as basically this girl creature, I'm not too sure, but with a giant drill. And you have to like drill your way through things, but whilst platforming. But you from the looks of the trailer, the way I interpreted it, you get an extra jump and you get extra movement based on getting kills with that drill. So if you like need to access a certain area, you need to get like 2 kills on your way there to then have enough jumps to be able to do it. And it looks quite fast-paced and intense as well. And with that graphic style, it kind of piqued my interest. Like, it's one that kind of went under the radar, but it looks cool.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, that sounds actually pretty nice. I'll give that a blast.
Yeah, it was something that I'm going to keep my eye on and check a release date out, and hopefully we'll get a trailer with more gameplay footage, because it was only very, very short. But otherwise, I mean, the Epic Mickey remake, I'm like, I get it. I'd rather would have had just a new one, though, because I think it's like the same game, but modern graphics, right?
That's it, yeah.
which
I mean, for that, I mean, I don't really know many people who played the original, really. So you could have just made a new game and completely remastered it, really.
yeah.
'Cause I don't think it. From what I know, anyway, it doesn't have that much of a following. But I could be wrong. It could be, people like Disney. Could be a big game.
Yeah, it might do really well. I know I'm definitely not bothered about it until I hear the fact it's done really well, though. I think that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Yeah.
And the last thing to go with, then, it's not directly, see what I did there, Nintendo Direct, but the Pokemon Showcase. I don't know its official name. Pokemon Presents, is it?
I think so, yeah. It's a Pokemon Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But there was a bunch of stuff in there, most of which, I don't know if this is a hot take, I didn't care about like 90% of it.
Yeah, that's very fair.
But the last thing on that presentation was a trailer that, I'm curious about. I assume you know what I'm referring to here.
Yeah, it's the ZA, Legend ZA.
Yes. I feel like that's probably the most hype announcement from Nintendo this year, despite me not being hyped for it. If that's if that juxtaposition makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I do completely get that. It's the direct before was sort of not low effort, but it wasn't overwhelming. So like anything that Pokemon did announce would have been like, well, at least it's sort of overwhelming because the rest was underwhelming.
At least we got our yearly Pokemon. Yay!
Yeah.
I'm the same sucker that I'll moan about it, but I'll still probably buy it.
I'm the exact same. Like, I will hate the fact that I buy it, and I'll probably buy it and be like, this game is awful.
Yeah.
I should have spent way more time on this, and it could have been good, and it's not all these things. But then if they did it again, I'd do it. It's just...
Yeah, it's genuinely a part of life now. Like, for me, it's routine. I will get my Pokemon release like once every maximum. I don't go now like 2 years because they don't without releasing a new generation. So I'll pick it up, play it, regret purchasing it, like absolutely demoralize myself whilst playing it. Say the game is awful to everyone, and then buy the next edition.
On the day, I'll queue up and full release.
Yeah, 100%, and say how much I love Pokemon because I do, and a lot of others do. It's just the game; it needs something more now. I think I get what they were trying with Scarlet and Violet, but I'm sorry if you guys enjoyed that game, and I get there were things that were good in it, but I don't even want to get started because that's a whole episode on itself, right?
Yeah, you know what? It was enjoyable. But it wasn't acceptable, really.
Yeah,
it was quite unacceptable.
I completely agree. The way that game released is not for me.
No.
Lastly, before we get into the review, then I'll keep mine brief because I don't think it's changed too much. But what I've been playing myself for the past sort of like week or two since the last stream's been about 10 days. So a lot's changed actually in 10 days. So I finished Prince of Persia.
Nice.
That was I'm very mixed. I'd say that's probably my out of every game I've beaten since December to now, it's the game I feel most mixed on. Some parts of it were really, really good. Like I'm talking sort of your 9s out of 10 moments with the boss fights. They were grand epics, really, really difficult, and you felt accomplished when you overcame them. Like there wasn't a single boss in that game that I beat on like the 3rd attempt. All of them were probably about 5 to 10, and that is also in a good way because you're not spending too long on the bosses either. You learn their patterns, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
And then when you get good at it, you get through... Each boss had like 3 phases, for example. So you'd have the first phase, which was the easy-ish one. You might get through it on your first attempt. The second phase, they do something completely different, and you're like, wow, this is well hard. And then they combine the two together for the final phase, and that's like a pattern they kept throughout that game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah,
it was really cool, and the fact I can sit there and speak about the boss fights, it's kudos to them. They got them on point. The combat was great as well. The problem is sometimes the game didn't work. There's a certain side quest where the game just crashed, and not crashed, it was still running. I've got that wrong. It was still running, but I couldn't move. He was just locked in the animation of talking, so I had to reboot the game. And apparently you could fix the issue by like reconnecting your controller or something like that. But I'm like, the fact that that's in a modern day Ubisoft game designed for all platforms. Yeah, it's bad. I played this on Switch, so I went to Reddit to see if it was just a Switch problem. But no, it's even more common on PlayStation 5, and I was like, well...
Really?
Yeah. They can fix it through reconnecting controllers on PlayStation, but the fact they have to go through it is... yeah, that's a really, really bad glitch. I felt like the need to express that, because I was very annoyed that I couldn't even access some of the side content there.
Yeah, that's annoying and buggy.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, I won't give a score in case I review it. I'm tempted to review it. I don't know. So we'll leave that one up in the air for now.
Nice.
We are going to be reviewing this, so I'll keep this one very brief. But I've upbeat this week Resident Evil 2.
Nice.
The original one rather than the remake. Oh, mate, that was good. That was good.
Yeah.
That was a good game. And lastly, there's also God of War that I just started.
Okay, yeah, nice.
God of War has been treating me well, per se. I've never played the God of War series. Always been interested in it and the mythos and the whole mythology side of it. But never got around to playing it. But wow, I'm having fun. Having a lot of fun, in fact.
Very good, very nice. Are you? I'm guessing it's still a fairly short game, as like 3 and 4 are.
Yeah, I'm going to assume so, because I've probably played it for about 6 to 7 hours now, and I have a feeling I'm approaching the end.
Okay.
It's hard to say without me finishing it, but you know when you just get that feeling of, I'm getting quite close to the end now. I've got that buzz around the game.
Up. Yeah, nice.
It's aged surprisingly well, because I think the game's like 04, something like that.
I think so, yeah. It's quite a while ago now.
It looks nice for a game that's 2 decades old at this point, and the combat, wow, you can see how it's had a huge influence. I'd say that and Devil May Cry have probably had a huge influence over Western slashers.
Okay, decent.
Because I've not really played a game earlier than those two, especially DMC, to be fair, but God of War definitely added stuff into the mix. Really, really fun just to play. And because it's held up well, the only thing is with the port that I'm playing is it's a PS3 port, so the actual cutscenes, I'm pretty sure they're compressed to get them onto the PS3. And you can tell because they're slightly grainy, but then obviously in gameplay where it matters more, it's HD, which is great.
Yeah, that is nice. That is decent.
So I think it's worth the trade-off overall.
Yeah. I'd say so, yeah. It's what you want, really. Unless you do want to play it for the cinematics, which is it's fair. But yeah, combat, I'd say, more important than that game.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. The very last thing before we start the review, a game's coming out this month that I'm really, really excited for. It is on the 22nd. So my birthday's coming up, booked the day off for it. Super Princess Peach, guys. That is out very soon now. I'm excited to play that. I hope we get one more trailer. I doubt we will, but it's right around the corner. I've been excited for this game, dude. Like, I've got announced, I want to say around June last year, maybe May. So nearly been a year of waiting for it, and as it's one of my favorite characters in gaming, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy that regardless of the actual quality. So expect a full biased review on that game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Even unbiased from what I've seen of the trailer of it, at least, it looks actually really good.
I think so too.
Genuinely, the dress-up elements in it look really fun.
Here's a hot take, right? And I'm going to say it now, but so far, out of everything I've seen from Nintendo, it's going to be their best release this year. So far. Yeah,
I mean, I'd struggle to argue with it, really, from everything that's come out so far. But yeah, I think it's even if like another couple of good games come out, still with the chance.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I played last year the one on DS, just called. Yeah. That was called Super Princess Peach. This one's called Princess Peach Showtime, right? That's how it goes. So I played Super Princess Peach, and I thought that was a very solid platformer, like 7 or 8 out of 10. Man, I had a lot of fun with it. There's an abundance of personality, like a whole load of personality.
It's very similar to New Super Mario Bros, but in different ways. Like, you had extra mechanics that made it very different. So it was an interesting one when I first played that. It was good. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I thought for that reason, it was just amazing. Like, really, really enjoyed it, and looking forward to getting this. I shouldn't call it a sequel, but this addition into the Princess Peach series, because a lot of Mario characters have their own games. You know, like, I shouldn't call Donkey Kong a Mario character because he started at the same time, but you know what I mean. The Donkey Kong series, Wario,
Definitely.
Yoshi has his series. So it's kind of exciting
Yeah,
if
yeah.
this does well, if Peach gets her own like sub-series, I'd be really happy with that.
Yeah, that'd be nice addition. I think it's definitely warranted now with the popularity and everything. They should try something different.
Yeah, completely agree, man. Completely agree.
Yeah.
And that is our casual conversation, guys. I hope you got something useful out of that. I thought it was great just to have a little insight into it. We're going to commence with the Tales of Xillia review, the main crux of it. Well, that's why we're here, right?
Nice.
So, dude, do you remember... What do you say your opinions were from Symphonia? That's probably a good place to start. Did you have any opinions or strong feelings, or think anything was particularly cool?
With Symphonia, it seemed like a great game, but I think if retrospect is a very useful thing. So it's like when you compare it to stuff from nowadays, it just seems sort of aged a little bit. So there was sort of more updated mechanics in sort of modern JRPGs, should we say, that wouldn't have. But that's completely fair because for the time, I mean, when was that released? Was it like early 2000s?
Yeah, I think '03 on the GameCube for that one.
'03, yeah. So that's over 20 years now. So comparing it to something that's fairly modern, it's got unfair advances, but it looks a really fun game. The story looked sounded nice. And I did like the fact that you can speak to the party. I really like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think is that the skip mechanic that you're referring to there?
That's it. Yeah.
Because that mechanic, dude.
Yeah,
Well, we'll get to that, but they are genuinely amazing. Like wholeheartedly, have a lot of love for the skits in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a pretty fair brief review and inquiry into it. If you guys are interested, we do have the footage for Symphonia. We didn't upload it because there's a few issues, but if it's something that we ever want to upload, or I kept for memory basically, so it is there. But yeah, Symphonia was great. I did enjoy it. I think I rated it like a 7 out of 10. It was pretty enjoyable experience. Dated in parts though, as you've said there, Jack. There's some parts which are a little didn't age gracefully.
Yeah.
With Xillia, though, I think a brief exploration to the history of the game is probably a good place to start, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it gives us sort of like a background, explains why the game is the way it is.
Yeah.
So, this game, it's older than it looks, actually, but it releases a 15-year anniversary celebration for the Tales of series. Which I was like, okay, I didn't actually know that until looking into the background of the game a little bit. So it released in 2011 in Japan, and then later in Europe and America in 2013. And this was like sort of the big blockbuster title of celebrating Tales of. So they wanted to go all out and make a really good game that people would be like, oh yeah, this is awesome. I like that they did that, because I don't think we got something like that, as far as I'm aware, from Final Fantasy. I won't be able to comment on Dragon Quest, but Final Fantasy have always been aware of their updates. I know they use Final Fantasy 14 for it.
Yeah.
But we didn't get a game that was like you know what, this is a celebration of the series. They've always just kind of been consistent really releasing those, as far as I'm aware.
I think this is the same with Dragon Quest, to be fair, as well. There's no sort of anniversary editions or anything like that I can think of anyway.
So I did find that quite interesting when it did come around to playing it. It received its... So on release, the game, though, to be fair, speaking of the background, on release it did have a few issues in the Japanese version. There's something called pop-in, if you've heard of that phrase before.
Pop-in?
Yes, where essentially character models or items like trees or carts would randomly pop in and load. So, you know what, if I compare it to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where you'd be walking around and suddenly there's a character in front of you, or random things will just pop in front of you. Now, it's nowhere near as bad as that, like nowhere near. And in fact, the cities are full of, like, they look beautiful and they're full of different things, and then you can clearly tell that they wanted to get as much in as possible. For that reason, I think it suffered on release a little bit. Maybe it was rushed a tiny bit to get it out for that 15-year celebration. I don't know if that's true, but that's my own thesis on it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was bad in Scarlet and Violet, that was, though. It's nowhere near that bad.
I was going to say that was awful.
Yeah,
But
100%.
It's like a few little times that it does it. That can pass with me. That's not too much of an issue.
Yeah, I completely agree. It doesn't break away from my immersion as long as it's not constant.
Yeah.
The good part of this is though that I played the 2013 European edition, which didn't have the pop in. I didn't ever really come across it, and it's because I played it so late. The final update that was in 2015 would have fixed any like minor, probably graphical or running issues. So by the time I played this game, I didn't have like any issues with it really, which is great.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, probably playing the best version of the game, I'd say. It's weird that it's only on PlayStation 3 though. A lot of Tales of games have had ports, as we're aware. We got the Symphonia Switch port, that's how I played it. Constantly they're kind of looking after these series. Like I know Dragon Quest has done it. They've sort of rebrought games over, and they've had the occasional remake, right?
That's it. Yeah, I think with the 7 and 8, I think they released on the 3DS. And again, I don't know whether that was an anniversary or anything, but I think it was just a random. Well, there you go. It's outdated, so you can have it again. And you've got like the ports of the first 3 games as well.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I remember you mentioning that they were very popular games, right? So that might have been why they got the remake?
Possibly, yeah. I'd say of all of those games, especially 8, I think it was really popular. So I think it went platinum actually on PS2. If I'm not wrong. But yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, 100%, man. So I think going on from that, on a personal level, this is completely just personal to me, but I think this game like resonated with me. It was one of those, dude. You know, one of the games a heavy hit, and you're like, oh, I felt that.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of them for me, dude. It's all I'll say is there's certain. We'll get into it more in depth when I get into the cast, but there's certain cast members and how the writing sort of, let's say, conveys their emotions. It's lingered on me and left me thinking about the characters' sort of motivations and their themes, but I've had that moment of self-reflection, and that happens with me in media quite rarely. It's happened with me in JRPGs in the past with like Xenoblade, and I'm like, oh man, I'm never going to forget that moment or when this happened. And I'd say this particular game, unlike a lot of the JRPGs I've played recently, it had that sort of moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have a couple of moments like that in there. It kind of hallmarks a good game. If you can connect on like more of like a character in a sort of role play sense with them, it does definitely help with your emotion and everything.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Genuinely, wholeheartedly agree with that. Like the last time I felt true connection to maybe a game on an emotional level is one that we've spoken about on stream before, actually. You know, Nier Automata.
Oh yeah.
For obvious reasons, if you guys have played that game, you feel deep emotional connections to its characters and narrative, and I don't think this is actually too far from it. That's why I brought this game up, because a big theme of this narrative, I feel like the narrative might be an appropriate place to go. A big theme of the narrative, or at least what I interpreted from it, like just looking at it as a connotation sort of thing, is it's an exploration of what is it to be human, what makes you human, and I thought that it reminds me of Nier in that way, so I thought it was a good thing to compare to one another.
For sure, yeah. I mean, with Nier, it's you kind of get the cyberpunk take on it, don't you? Where it's like, well, why is it that we can be human and define this as a human, whereas an android will be different but can still have human characteristics?
Yes.
Whereas I assume this is sort of more like a fantasy setting of way of like exploring that. Yeah,
100% agree, man. It's I'd say out of the 3 elements we're going to discuss today, though, the narrative is probably the weakest. So we're not going to go too in depth onto in terms of everything, because we've got to keep it sort of brief. But then we'll give our opinions and be factual with it. So with this one, I'd say the narrative is a little weaker than the combat and the characters. It's by no means weak. Like, it's nothing to laugh at, and in fact, it's still, I'd say, good is a word, or maybe serviceable. But it left something to be desired as well, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
So when booting up a new save in Xillia, we're greeted with a character select screen instantly, which I was like, wow, this is unique for a JRPG. You don't really get that sort of thing. You're just normally taken into the world instantly, right? Or there's like an establishing shot, something like that. But nope, this is straight to a character select screen. I thought that was kind of strange.
You know what's interesting? Definitely an interesting way of doing it, especially if you be fresh into the series and you have no idea of how these types of characters play. Then it'd be interesting to jump straight in.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. There was Mila and Jude, our two protagonists. I can't remember which way around they were, but it's Mila and Jude, or Jude and Mila. And they sort of have the same... So you'd think that they are completely different stories, or there are major differences. But to be honest with you, both characters share the same overarching narrative. There is one story to this game, but instead it's two perspectives.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting way of doing it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool way of exploring one narrative, because obviously then you've got different interpretations of the theme, and I was like, damn, that's cool. For this review, I have played Mila's. I have not played Jude's, and I want to express that obviously my opinions may change. Maybe the narrative is even better written on Jude's side, but this is purely an exploration of the game from Mila's perspective. From what I could gather from online discourse, Jude's narrative has a much larger focus upon the main party, like their motivations, their sort of emotions, and their own perspectives. Whereas Mila's, from what I can tell in my own opinion, it was far more sort of centralized. So it's based around Mila and her own opinion on everything. Okay. She comes across as the main character to me. I know that sounds quite harsh when you can pick between the two, but this is definitely Mila's story. And then Jude sort of inherits her story and character motivations.
Okay, yeah, so that's understandable. So it's sort of the difference of playing sort of a game with a designated main character, as opposed to you are a character and you assemble a party kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, you put it perfectly there, man. And I did quite like Mila's character arc. Like, she starts off the game as she's very cold. Like, she has, the typical... If I said tsundere, but without the romantic side of it.
I get exactly what you mean, that type.
Yeah, she has that typical sort of written protag.
Okay.
She sees humanity as like a group of inferior beings to herself. Reason for this being that she sees herself, and even knows herself, I should say, as a goddess. She sees that she is the goddess of this world that we live in, called Rizamaxia.
Okay.
That is the continent. I don't know if there's a wider world out there, but the continent that we play this game, and this game is set in, is called Rizamaxia. And she sees herself as the goddess of this land. Towards the start of this narrative, she comes across Jude, and they meet just by pure coincidence, stumble across each other, and Jude gets into a bit of trouble, let's say, with the university that he's studying in. Mila helps him get out of this trouble, to summarise things, and then when Jude's making the decision to travel with her and stick with her, just because he can't go back to his life at university, she calls him a clever boy with like a very patronising tone. I thought that was a good thing to bring up to sort of show how she is as a character.
Yeah, it gives it's very, very sort of playfully insulting, that kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, that is a good way of putting it. It did make me laugh out loud. I was like, God damn, she's got a bit of a sassy attitude.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
By the end, though, she comes across like what it means to be human. Major spoilers, by the way, guys, because I'm going to get into spoiler territory for Mila's story. So if you guys are interested in playing this game, obviously thank you for being here, but go play it if you're interested. If not, and you just enjoy listening, though, let's keep going. So yeah, by the end, she learns what it means to actually be human. So before she sees herself as this, hopefully I can word it well, but this sort of goddess character, that was it was her duty to sort of look after the land and sort of look after humans and spirits per se. But by the end, she sees herself as a human, and it links so well into the narrative. But I don't give the narrative credit for that. For me, that's the character writing that makes me feel compelled, not the actual... If I look at the narrative and break them down separately, the narrative is very simple when we get further into it. But the character writing, wow, it's phenomenal, man. Phenomenal.
Nice. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. I mean, even if you have like a really good narrative, sometimes it will come across as weak, because if the character writing is really strong, you're gonna like root for these characters so hard to to get like a good ending to the story or anything that you've sort of already embarked on. So it may well be a good story, but I've had it before where it's sort of the character you just want them to be the best of what they can be.
Yeah, that's exactly
it. Doesn't do it complete justice.
I find JRPGs are often quite like that.
Yeah.
You really emotionally connect with the party, much like we said when we're doing Symphonia as well. There's one, but I'd say the character writing here is even stronger. But Symphonia had the better plot for like a level of comparison. That's where I stand on that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's delightful to watch when she does finally accept that she is actually a human and kind of overcomes it, because it makes her character expand her own horizons in a weird way. She holds on to like the grittiness and pure determination she had before, but then she leaves you feeling sort of inspired. And as you said, I think you put it perfectly, like rooting for her so badly that regardless of outcome, you want that character to succeed. And that's definitely how I felt when playing.
Nice. That's good.
It took me I'd say the game took me roughly about 50 hours, give or take, like 5 hours each way. I can't remember exactly what my playtime was, but it was about a 50-hour experience.
Okay. Yeah, that's decent length then.
So, yeah, it was good length of time, that's for sure. If I was to do like a quick bullet point on the plot, just to get through it, because I feel like it's important for the context of the characters that I really want to get into, because that's where I'd say where the fun is of a JRPG. How good are the characters? The plot commences with Mila and Jude, as I've said, sort of meeting by pure chance. Essentially, there's this giant weapon. So imagine, right, Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
A huge titan, like an Adeptus Mechanicus titan.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of their giant cannons, just sort of like on that you could get for the arms, like a las cannon or something like that, but a giant one. It's just positioned on a podium. It's not mobile.
Okay.
That's in this game. It looks kind of similar, but more colourful. You know what? Funnily enough, it's black and green, so it does kind of work well. Okay. This is called the Lance of Kresnik. It's positioned to us as a super weapon that's powerful enough to destroy like anything in its path, including the world's mana, the actual continent itself, any enemy that stands in its way. This weapon it'll mess you up if you get in the way of it. We don't see it fired, so we can't assume what kind of weapon it is, but to me, it looks like it's a giant laser beam. That's what it looks like it will shoot.
Would a good comparison be sort of, the Eggman's laser in Sonic Adventure 2?
You know what?
The walnut planet.
That's actually a really solid comparison. So, yeah, for sure. If we imagine that on a giant scale, we've got one of those. And Mila's like, no, I don't like this. She sees it as a huge problem, and she wants to destroy this lance because she sees it as a threat to not only humanity but the world of Rizamaxia itself. So using the power of the 4 great spirits, essentially what the 4 great spirits are, they are 4 elemental spirits that are attached to Mila, making her as powerful as she is. There's one for each of the main elements that are typical to everything, so like fire, water, earth and wind. They've all got names. I can't quite remember what they all are. I think this wind one's called Sylph. I can't remember what their names are though.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, they're attached to her, and you make it to Lance of Kresnik alongside meeting Jude, as we mentioned. And when you make it there, the Lance of Kresnik, it's not fired. Nothing bad happens until keep you on your toes until it's opened up. And then when it's opened up, it absorbs the 4 great spirits away from Mila, rendering her much, much less powerful. And now I can link this to gameplay in a good way. So you start this game, you are OP. It is the easiest start to a video game I have ever experienced, and that's quite a statement. You press a button, it's called the win button. You press circle, it summons in a spirit, and you win. You kill whatever's in your path.
Okay.
But when the spirits are taken...
Makes sense, though.
Yeah, exactly. It does make a lot of sense. But when the spirits are taken, dude, oh no. The combat it flips on its head, and it's extremely difficult. To the point where...
it must be such a culture shock.
Yeah, it is. To the point where, right, if you lose the combat, the story continues, because it knows how hard it can be.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Okay.
I feel like it's a good representation of power shift dynamic.
Yeah, definitely makes you feel that. Yeah, that's a good mechanic actually. That's a good way of doing that.
Yeah, that's something I completely agree with. Have you ever experienced that in a video game where like you're in a boss fight and it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, the same cutscene, say, afterwards continues? Have you got any examples to head? I'm trying to think of one, because I know it's happened in gaming, but I can't think of one on the top of my head.
I know the only one I immediately get back to that you have to lose. It's canon to lose the. There's one fight in Dragon Quest 11 where it starts to progress. It's just part of the story. You do lose essentially. There's a big twist in that game, and it's you've got to lose some fights, and it's not a good outcome, shall we say.
It sounds like a pretty similar sort of concept to what we're discussing here in a great way.
You know, it probably would be because I'm thinking that you do fight that without the main character. So he's completely removed from that battle, so you don't have the usual strength that you'd have anyway.
I mean, to be honest then, that sounds scarily similar to what we've got going on here. Because with the main character being removed, it reminds me of the 4 great spirits being removed from Mila.
Yeah.
As a point of fun comparison.
It's going to be a thing I think it's quite common in RPGs in general, where it's sort of like, well, you have to do this battle, but you can't do it completely powered up. There's one of you's got to go, or it's like reduce party, reduce power, that kind of thing. Yeah. It keeps you on your toes. It's interesting.
The but's in all caps as well, right? It's like but. Yeah, 100%, man. It's I am curious on Dragon Quest 11. The way you've spoken about it is something that I feel like I'd enjoy.
It's a very enjoyable game. It's you can get as much into it as you like. You could probably complete the game within, I don't know, I'd say probably 50 to 70 hours. But
yeah.
Like, if you really want to be in depth with it and do like some crazy builds, it's probably good. I've played it for over like 300 hours. It's a great game.
There's a lot of content to sort of explore there.
Yeah.
No, I like the sound of it, man. We're going on a tangent there. I do apologise. The world known as Rizamaxi that we were discussing is inhabited by like 2 different kind of beings, not including like your animals and your enemies, stuff like that, but 2 main beings. You've got both humans and spirits, and humans and spirits sort of share this symbiotic relationship. That's probably the way to put it. That helps the world's mana flow stay in harmony and stability.
Yeah. Okay.
Mila fears that humans have sort of, throughout history, that she's watched over humans for a very, very long time. Not in physical form, I'll get to that, but in terms of Rizamaxi, humans and spirits, she fears that humans have known war and have always known to fight or conquest. And she's seen that, obviously, with the creation of the Lance of Kresnik, this potential world-ending weapon should not be trusted in the hands of humans, whether it's used or not. So this establishes her determination and drive for the narrative. That's what her character motivation is. She wants this lance destroyed, does not see the need for it, and doesn't want it around. Okay.
It's a very interesting dynamic then, switch kind of between the I suppose as a goddess, if she's supposed to be a goddess, it kind of embodies the whole thing of, well, you are human in the way that you present, and they are your creation, but you are equal part spirit.
Yeah, mate, honestly, you've nailed it, because that is where she is positioned. That's explored as you go through the game as well. It's on such a level where the skits, as we've discussed before, they go in depth onto this particular topic. It's great. When we get to those, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Again, guys, final spoiler warning, because we're going to get through this now. Eventually, Mila and Jude come across the other party members. The party consists of Alvin, Elise, Tipo, Rowan, and Leia. They are our main party. Really, really cool. Each with their own motivations that we will go through. But one thing is for sure, the recurring character theme of Mila's determination, it's so strong that every other party member inherits it alongside her. Mila's goal becomes everyone else's goal, not maybe instantly, but it's driven forward so much that nothing will stop her. that this becomes a main motivation. The reason why we've got this clip on screen right now, that I will give credit to. You can see the watermark right there, the YouTube video. Check them out, guys, because major credit for giving me this. This is the point in the game where she loses control of her legs entirely. She becomes unable to walk, move, unable to do anything, to the point where she's put into a wheelchair. And I've never had anything like that explored in a video game ever before. That was a complete shock to me, where your main protag loses the ability to walk, yet the narrative continues. I was like, whoa, okay, this is strange.
That's really that's a real blow. I mean, I've seen it done in media before, never in a game, interestingly, but I've seen it done in media, and when it is done, it's done really well. So it's that's testament to it, definitely.
It was brave. It was very brave, because obviously it's a difficult topic to handle, because obviously it's a very personal one to some people. That's what I was thinking when playing through. But I like that it's been represented in video game format on such a good way as well.
Sure, yeah.
Because it doesn't stop Mila and her determination at all. It doesn't change who she is, and she continues to pursue this particular objective.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really well handled.
Yeah.
And then from that moment, the party continued to go on like this massive adventure across the continent. There's 2 countries in the continent, Rashigal, where you start, and you leave very, very quickly because you're chased out of it, and going to Aljul. The reason they're chased out of Rashigal is because the king of this country knows who Mila is, so she's clearly quite famous to the country, and wants her gone and nowhere near the Lance of Kresnik. It's not actually explained, but the player is left to sort of assume that, maybe he doesn't want her near the Lance at all.
Yeah. Okay. He's got his own motivations on the Lance.
Yes, he wants control of the Lance also. And unfortunately, when you are chased out of the picture, coincidentally, he gets control of the Lance. I'm like, of course.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good at all. And I won't go here, we'll sort of jump towards the end of the game now, but then the typical JRPG stuff happens where you explore the world, you go to different cities, you bond as a group, there's bosses in between, you do go fight the king eventually, and then you know what, I'll even spoil this, you beat the king, but then the journey's not over, you go back to the other country, there's a king of that country, you meet him, he's not evil, but he doesn't want to help you. Like, a lot of stuff just kind of happens that's important for the narrative, but I don't feel like it's important to discuss here. It's more of a thing if you're interested. When you play the game, you'll get to experience it all.
Yeah. That's fair.
Jumping towards the sort of end of the second act, start of the third act, though, it's worth mentioning, I'd say, that throughout this whole narrative, the lance is never fired. So, instead, this is why I've got a slight criticism of the story now. The lance is never fired. It's never shown that it is powerful. Instead, we are just constantly reminded that it is. I just wish that... Yeah, it's a threat, and I get that can work for a period of time. But I think just showing power either through gameplay or just having a small depiction of what the lance can do before the big moment would have been useful.
Yeah.
But then the big moment happens where eventually, in the final act of the game, so bearing in mind I was a good, maybe 40 hours in at this point, the lance is fired, and the characters, as well as the player, simultaneously neither knew that it was not a weapon, or not designed as a weapon. It was instead a key to break something called the schism. Right, here we go. I know it's a lot of words, but we'll get to it. So the schism is essentially the skyline for Riza Xillia. You shoot through it, and then there's a world on top of it. I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Oh. That's interesting, actually, yeah.
Yep, and you shoot through, and there's a world directly opposite, adjacent to this schism. And as soon as you shoot through, armies begin to invade Riza Xillia. Armies upon armies.
Okay.
So clearly they knew of the Lance's existence, despite it being in another world. And they were ready for war, which is Mila's greatest fear, kind of coming true. The Lance, it was right, she was right. The Lance was used for war, just not in the way she thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Not as a weapon, but as a doorway.
Yes, that's exactly it, mate.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that it was fired, but it gives us our main sort of plot point there. it leaves the player to question, though, how the heck did they have this army ready? Why, and how did they know that the lance existed if it's in basically a world that wasn't accessible without it?
Yeah.
That's where we get the plot twist of one of our party members. So you can see where this is going. Alvin was a communicator from the other world known as Olympian. And it's a very different world to the one we're in. The world we're in is a fantasy sort of, not medieval, but it's very, as you said, sort of, I think high fantasy is a good way to put it. High fantasy setting.
High fantasy, yeah.
This world is dystopian future, and the world Alvin is from is very futuristic, technology everywhere, very little wildlife, and the characters are commenting on this throughout. And when you look through and can actually see it, it's completely juxtaposes this world in every way. And this is what a world looks like when it has no mana. Alvin proceeds to explain that his world ran out of mana. Hence, we're like, what? What do you mean? Alvin, what's going on? We don't believe that you're bad, And he's like, yeah, I'm here to fix my own world, And I saw you guys as an opportunity. And I'm like, no, because you're my favourite character, man.
Oh, jeez, that's not... Especially if you've gone 40 hours with that character as well.
Yeah.
That is, that's betrayal.
It honestly, it was a stab in the back. It felt like I was banned from the bookies, you know what I mean? It was one of those moments. I was like, how has this happened to me?
I've been played for.
100%, dude. And going on to there, you just you go into the other world to sort of fix the issue. You actually come to terms and find Alvin, fix things with him, going through it very quickly. Of course, there's way more to this. I'm very much just bullet pointing it. You fix things with Alvin, and you figure out his motivations were to actually save his home world. You sort of propose the idea of why not save both by destroying the lance, and you're like, ooh, because then we're not opening up anything, and the worlds are already connected in one spot. Why not make mana go through the two worlds? That kind of prospect.
Yeah.
And eventually you meet Mila's sister, Muse, who I personally didn't think much to, but she's meant to be the counterpart to Mila.
Okay.
Right. She teams up with the king you didn't fight from your own world, which is really unexpected because he was never a threat to you, never a direct enemy. They team up. I thought that was damn cool. He is also one of my favourite looking antagonists in video games, dude. Like, to give you sort of a verbal description, this guy is jacked as hell, ripped. He's like 6'4", long black hair, spiky armour, which then when he goes into his powerful form, he goes shirtless as all like these good antags do, He's got like the Sephiroth build going on for comparison that people, if they need it. He's that sort of character. He looks great, man.
Nice.
Probably my favourite character design. And they team up together. And you kind of left like, oh, what do we do? Because they literally have the power of time at their disposal. And when people get time, it's like, how do you beat this?
It's ridiculous, There's so many mechanics involved with time in gaming that it's like, you can't really challenge it.
Yeah,
you can't really challenge it.
You struggle to win, don't you? How do you beat it?
Struggle. Yeah.
And we're left in that sort of predicament. The way we win, though, to finish off, again, final spoiler warning, guys. The god Maxwell, the actual god, reveals himself. So it was never Mila, never a sister. There was an actual god in between it all, who created everything. Okay. He gets the lance, helps use the lance, fights them, and whilst they're fighting, you know what? Yeah. This is a weird point to say right now, but whilst they're fighting, I did forget to mention, actually, this is my bad, just before this, Mila dies. I forgot to mention that. That's pretty important. I probably should mention that. Mila dies. Mila dies because, through the powers that they get when they team up, the king, Gaius, and Muse, they're just too powerful. She can't combat that at all. Like there is nothing in her arsenal that can stop the power they have. So she is sent into like this sort of ethereal afterworld where she can explore and see what the party's up to, but she isn't there. It's quite sad. And through her eyes, the whole like monochrome sort of grayscale effect they have on the screen, it changes saturation. And your literal main quest objective, right, mate, is called go wherever you want. You just
Oh,
it's just exist. I was like, there's no way they're making me do this right now.
oh, that's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah, it was sort of grit my teeth moment.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
It was a little
Yeah.
bit. I will admit to you right now. I was sad. I was one sad boy. But alas, as we were saying, I forgot to mention that. That's my bad. Then it goes to the final fight, and
Yeah.
you overcome. Of course, you win. You overcome guys from Musée with the help of Maxwell, and during this fight, it sort of stops at a halfway point. You know, you fight, you're winning for a bit, then a cutscene happens before you continue the second half, like they do in Kingdom Hearts, for example.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that, and then
Nice.
I've got to make sure I give this enough credit 'cause it's so well done. They capture Maxwell with the Lance of Kresnik and absorb him, like they did the Great Four for Mila at the start of the game. Mila goes to the Lance when it's being fired and sacrifices herself to get the Great Four, and the Great Four help bring her back into the real world. They've got enough mana between them to bring her back into existence again, because all living things are made from mana. So she joins alongside the party with the four elements again, and there's this whole like depiction where she's come back, the party's back to lose, she drops down with the Great Four. It's awesome, it's so cool. I can't verbally do it justice, but it's amazing. And then you have your final boss fight.
Yeah, is that with Gaius and...
Yes, bang on. It's with Gaius and Musée, her sister, and you obviously, if you're good enough, because it's damn hard, you manage to win.
Yeah.
And she becomes, in winning, she does not kill them, she lets them live, and sort of comes to compromises with them and their own motivations. The king was motivated by Rizamaxia being safe. And obviously, when the Lance of Kresnik opened up that pathway, she's like, look, this place can be safe. Olympius won't invade, such and such, gives the narrative exposition to him. And then talks to Musée about, there's no need for us to be fighting right now. And when she's beaten her, she's like, come with me, and instead, we will become Maxwell, that god in between. And boom, you have your main narrative. Now, I felt like there's a much further need to go in depth with that than Symphonia. Reason being is I feel like it's really, really good, while not as strong. But I feel like there's also... It's the point of discussion of the character motivations. We needed the main narrative there. So I feel like that's pretty important to explore. And we got a lot of the character motivations whilst talking about it as well. But yeah
for sure. I mean,
that's what it is, man.
Sounds really strong story, to be fair. Yeah. It's the amount of twists and turns does remind me. Like, it's very reminiscent of JRPGs. They do it so well. It's just like you go for so long, and it's like, oh yeah, they're just going to take everything, flip it on its head.
Yeah, and it happens like a few times in this story, and I'm like, man, I need a rest. My heart can't handle all of this. It gives me that sort of pain. But yeah, I did really, really enjoy it, and it did resonate with me. Especially, as I said before, Mila. Hers is very central. I have a feeling Jude, when Mila dies, obviously there's going to be a whole segment of gameplay where Mila's not there. Time passes I forgot to mention, a good amount of time passes. It's like 3 years, 4 years. The characters age, and the ones that were younger get older, and they have much better gear. Like, I'm pretty sure it's a big time jump, so when she comes back, it's like a very big moment. And throughout, it's insinuated that Jude and Mila have like romantic connections as well, so he's over the moon when she comes back, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that's nice. That is nice.
Yeah, it is really cool.
I do like it. It's just, do they do it justice in the sort of you're made to wait that time? Or was it sort of like an instant sort of, well, not instant, but she's dead 1 minute, then just drops down the next?
No, you're made to wait. It's whilst that quest is go wherever you want, and you can obviously see the party and see the world still moving, but you're not there. You're sort of in ethereal form.
Wow.
It's gut wrenching, to be honest. It makes you feel like, nah, I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, I don't want this to happen anymore.
When she becomes Maxwell at the end, it's so rewarding as well, because throughout the whole game she believes she is Maxwell, but obviously she never was. That's the crux. She was just a human, with the power of the Great Four, because they saw the potential in her. And that when you see that unraveled in gameplay, it's so rewarding, dude. It's really, really good. I hold that highly, making her probably one of my favourite characters. I'd say that what's really, really cool as well is at the end of the game, they have, like, you know how in Tales of they have the animated scenes that are just literally drawn out like an anime, that aren't in game at all. They are literally like hand drawn anime scenes, which are wicked. There's one where she's bawling her eyes out, her and Judah holding hands, and you're like, oh no, what's about to happen? When she becomes Maxwell, she has to stay and remain in this realm, and obviously they all the other party members have to go back to their ordinary lives, so they do have to separate. And I'm like, we've just earned this sort of, it plays with you, man. You've earned this sort of nice, happy ending. She's back, but she can't. Yeah. I was like, no. I turned to my partner who I was playing with at the time, and I was like, I'm sad now. The game actually made me feel sad. Accomplished, because the last boss fight was really hard, but sad.
Yeah. That's quite upsetting. You'd think they give you like a little, somehow a loophole.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be something. But there is a sequel, so wishful thinking, but I'm like, ooh, maybe.
You know, it's powerful writing to do it that way as well, I suppose. It's sort of like, well, you know, not everything is, as you've known from the story, not everything goes to plan all the time.
Yeah, so that's a perfect way of putting it, man. I did have a lot of fun with it, and I thought, genuinely thought it was awesome. That's the main plot. I would say it's the biggest topic of discussion because of how I feel about it. I'm going to do brief inquiries into the characters, but I'll keep it much more brief than Symphonia because I wanted to do the inverse with that, because that's where I had problems, whereas I don't have any problems with the characters here.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Mila and Jude I feel like we've already covered, but yeah, Mila the goddess, to be honest, I've covered her entirely, so I won't go too much in depth, but possibly one of my favourite characters, driven by determination, great fun. Really cool to have like a protag that does that. Jude at first starts off as like, you're gonna know exactly what kind of protag I mean here, dude. But you know that sort of young student, doesn't know too much, kind of naive. Will do good. Yeah, the novice. That's exactly this perfect character archetype there. Will do anything to do whatever is good. He grows up, though, and has that character arc that, again, is very common, but it's done well, of becoming... I shouldn't say what it means to be a man, but... Because I feel like that's a...
Sort of harder.
Yeah, it becomes a bit more rough, is the way to put it. Sees the hardship of life and grows a lot from that.
Okay.
Alvin, who he mentioned... the Giga Chad. If we know, I don't think that's an archetype, but I feel like I want to make it one. Because I feel like it is in JRPGs. There's always the Giga Chad.
No, there is. It's always like just like some huge Chad guy who's just an absolute Chad. It's like, well, it functions well.
Yeah, exactly. And this is that character. One thing I need to mention is you can put cosmetics on your characters however you want, and they will appear in cutscenes live and stuff like that. It's pretty damn cool. I didn't really mess with them too much. I just put elf ears on Mila because that's funny, and then put aviators on Alvin. I was like, yeah. And he's just going around this protag with the protag, in just aviators. I was like, this is great. It just suits his character entirely.
I like it.
You can imagine him. He's like this 6-foot dude, giant sword, big suit, and he just looks cool. He has his sword like sort of slung across his shoulder. Yeah, he's great. He was my favourite character actually, because the fact he comes round in the end as well, and you understand his character motivations. You see him as a traitor, and you're like, oh, why has he done this? But you really understand Alvin. You know, his planet and everything he loves and everyone he knows is under threat. It's literally dying. He's a traitor to the party we've explored, but it's completely justifiable in its own way. Yeah, it is.
Well, it's either become traitor to a party of people that you've become sort of friends with, or like betray everyone that you know back at home. So
yes,
I do completely. It's completely justified, really, in a sense.
Yeah, and that's exactly where he fits in. We've got Elise and Tipo. That's the healer of the group. So Avon was the tank, sorry. I should have probably been saying this. Jude was a damage dealer. Milo was a damage dealer. Elise is the healer of the group. Tipo is that little annoying puppet you guys may have been seeing on screen. I know it's harsh to call it annoying, but it's purposely written to be annoying. I love it. And Elise is a child representation on how this world affects a child at 13 years old. She's adorable. She is honestly like very well written. Got that sort of cute persona where she is very, very naive, but just constantly wants to belong. Her character she wants a place to belong. She's an orphan, you see, and she's just really wants to be a part of something. She wants people to love or to love her, and it's very wholesome. Her character arc is, to be honest.
It sounds, as the game, it sounds very wholesome, to be fair. A lot of the motivations behind it and everything.
Yeah.
Very wholesome.
100%, man. There's a lot of stuff to love here. And Elise was great. The best thing about her, though, is when in combat, she'd sometimes use she uses Tipo to cast her magic. It's basically like a teddy bear. It's not a teddy bear, but everyone in the world calls it a teddy bear. That's alive. And she can use it to like cast certain spells and channel like her mana through. And she's like, "Go, Tipo!" And every time she heals someone, she'd be like, "Sharing is caring." So the amount I heard that in this game, honestly, is like every few seconds, because I needed her in the party, otherwise I'd die. It'd be like, "Sharing is caring." No. Sharing is caring, to the point where me and my partner now just meme on it. We're like, "Go, Tipo! Sharing is caring." And I just can't get that one line out my head. There is actually one more that I find quite funny. Alvin, when you start combat, sometimes you'd be like, "What? No breaks?" And you're at the start of combat. So every combat, my guy, if you've got him in the party, is like, "What? No breaks? No breaks?" This guy wants a break every couple minutes.
He's working for it.
True. Him being the tanky is working for it. I'm actually like, my eye went a bit watery there, mate. The no breaks thing is genuinely hilarious. Like every combat, without fail, if you had him in, it's no breaks. I'm just like, guys, chill. You can have a break when the hunger bars ran out. Come on. There's only two more party members. You've got Rowan. He plays the old wise guy. He's the teacher, the master, that archetype. Great character, very well written. Very gentleman-like the way he's written. He was a servant to the king, the one that's bad, that you actually end up fighting and beating. When I say servant, he was second in command, I should say, and in charge of his army. A great tactician, but he stepped down as soon as he saw the king being evil. So when they come across each other again, that nicely finishes off his arc. My problem with him, though, is that after that arc's done, he's kind of there. Have you ever experienced that in an RPG?
Yeah, absolutely. There's you finish with a lot of characters' main plot points, and it's sort of like, well, they're just complete now, which is fine. No, I don't mind it, because it's sort of, you've accomplished that, and it's something to be proud of. You've accomplished, but equally, it'd be nice if there was something.
Yeah, and it's a little harsh, but that is the case with Rowan. He's great though. He's the spellcaster, does a lot of damage.
Nice.
And it's nice to have the spellcaster. It's important because the playstyle is very, very different to the rest of the party.
Yeah. Okay.
The final party member is what kind of makes an accidental love triangle. Leia is a character that in Jude's hometown, before he travelled for university, a girl that he grew up with. Had a very similar relationship to Sora and Kairi from Kingdom Hearts, actually. It's a good way to compare it.
Okay, yeah.
And you feel bad for her, and she's the character that, in post-game, I feel the most for, and someone that I can definitely relate to. Her whole character motivation was to, at first, impress Jude. That's what it was. She had a crush on him from a young age. And you can see how that sort of would affect her with the situation of Jude and Mila quite a lot. So when it gets into it and she realises this, and she's already left home and travelling with the party, she's just kind of wondering about her own self-existence. And it gets, to be honest, on a level, it's actually quite deep. She'll have a lot of skits or thoughts to herself that you're like, whoa, this is oddly relatable in human life. Because I feel like a lot of people can relate to, like, what is their own purpose? Like, why are they here? What are they trying to achieve? You're just sort of navigating through life without that real sense of direction. And that's what her character's an exploration of.
Yeah, if you put so much into someone, then that someone isn't sort of you lose the motivation for being there. It's that is oddly relatable.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's so many people can relate to with different things, whether it be something or someone. It's so it's gut wrenching. Honestly, it really is to watch her arc. And it's a reason why I've got a lot of love for this game. I could recommend this game, someone play it for her story, and that's without everything else we've discussed. Like, she is very, very well written.
Nice.
It's sad though, her story is. You know, there's a lot of sad moments in the game, but overall for her narrative, you do feel for her. There's a moment where Alvin and Jude fight when Mila's dead in Jude's story. I can't comment on personal experience because I haven't played through this, but when I was looking into it, and she tries to break it up and accidentally gets knocked out during the fight. So those two lads have a moment of, whoa, what have we just done, sort of thing. Like, and when watching that, I can imagine it being even more gut-wrenching knowing the situation she's in.
Yeah, to have someone that you're trying to impress then turn on you. Not great.
Because she's stuck in the middle of it. It reminds me of what is it? The first Pokemon movie where like Mew and Mewtwo are fighting. It's genuinely a similar scene when Ash is running it. It's like Leia runs in the middle of it without like in the crossfire, and they sort of have that moment of like, oh no, we've really messed up here, guys. And that makes up your party. So it's smaller than Symphonia's by like 2 characters, but short but sweet. There's not a dud here. Rowan's probably the weakest, but he's still a good character and very much enjoyable.
That's it. You can get away with it sometimes. Like if you want to refine your content and everything, then it's perfectly flat. I mean, even if you don't, you can kind of assimilate 2 characters into one another, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's, you know what, that happens quite commonly in JRPGs, right? Like, I feel like I've experienced that a lot.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you can have like several main plot lines that on just the same character.
Yeah, for sure, and they can interweave between them and explore several different themes. And I think it's great. Briefly, because we spoke about them before, but the skits of this game is what makes it so good. So going into the gameplay, the final section, before we conclude here, the shortest section also, but I feel like it's important to mention this gameplay. Right, this is a statement, but it's in my top 3 out of JRPGs that I've played. It has such good gameplay, and that's why I've saved it for last.
Nice.
The gameplay is so good. I include the skits within this. The skits in this game are fully animated, as you guys can see, voiced, so already above Symphonia's for me. And the way they are done, they comment on absolutely everything in the game. You eat a nice meal that I ate by chance. If a certain character likes it, they'll comment on it, on the ingredients and how it was made. If they are particularly tired because they've not rested in for a period of time because there's no obligation to, they will talk about it. If they are scared because of certain enemies being big in the area, you know, anything in this game, there's probably a skit for it. And there's so much content there's so many hours, and you can just listen to these characters talk and it makes them feel like your friends, dude. They are so well done, the skits are.
That's really good. That's a really nice way of doing it as well, without making anything too much of like a main plot line. That is really good.
Yeah, for sure. And they I feel like it's really unique to Tales of. A lot of JRPGs, and I'll use Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy Xenoblade, they tell their story, but they don't take you out on this like separate screen and consistently have characters commenting on it. And I feel like that's why Tales of builds their characters so well. They give them the time to truly flourish outside of quests and narrative.
You know what? Yeah, that's perfectly. You summed it up perfectly, really. With the, I know with a lot of other JRPGs that you can have like a similar thing of like it's not even really skits, but it's like you can have talk to party, for example, and it's sort of like they will always bring up something to do with like a quest that you're on. So it's like, oh, we should go and visit this for this. And it's like, well, yeah, but I want to talk to you. You've had a conversation with someone.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes it seems like they are good characters, but not real people, right? It's like, how the heck are you still going?
Exactly, yeah. So you haven't been to bed in like 6 days. Aren't you tired?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So the fact they comment on all of this, man, it gives you that sort of like, wow, they actually exist. Like, it sort of makes them feel very real, grounded characters. It does a very, very good job. I was sort of mind blown at some of them, and there's different tones as well. There's funny skits, there's like emotional ones, there's ones that'll expand the narrative if you want them to they talk about what they think of it. They're like, oh, how the heck is this? Why would we not aware of the schism? Or they'll talk about the lance, and it's like, oh, why hasn't it been fired? Like the fact they talk about this alongside your own thoughts, it's like you're all thinking together, like, what's next? It's great, dude. Like, it's an example of like a funny really skit. Is there's one with Muse, Mila's sister, when Mila was dead for a period of time. Jude has something called a tether where he can connect mana to a spirit, and a spirit can connect mana to him. And obviously Mila and Muse being spirits, you can see where this is going. They make sort of like a dirty sort of semi-sexual innuendo where Jude and Muse direct tether to one another, and Mila, when she is back, is like, wait, you two direct tethered? And you didn't tell me? She's like, crosses her arms, walks off of the screen, and Jude's like, what did I do? Not understanding that's how it's insinuated that spirits do the good this way. That's probably a very PG way of putting it, right? I was laughing out loud at that moment.
No, it's good that they've thought enough to actually, especially if they're voiced and animated this as well.
Yeah,
it's very impressive.
It is, dude. I was honestly gobsmacked. And lastly, with the gameplay, it would be criminal not to talk about the combat. The combat is phenomenal, very, very good. It feels like Tekken. So
really,
yes, you've got inputs, directional inputs, and you can knock enemies up and like sort of keep them in the air as long as you've got your combo counter going. Still, your combo counter will expand each time you get something called I think it's CC, which is a combat counter addition. So you can get that up to like 9 hits, 10 hits, and that means you can do 10 hits, anything with it. If they're in the air, you can keep them in the air. You can do arts, which are like spells, the equivalent of spells. You can do all sorts of things to sort of like stun or lock your enemies, but they can do the same back. So that's why I say Tekken's probably a good comparison, because you're in a 3D arena. Because unlike Symphonia, where it was linear and it felt really weird and dated, this you can move anywhere in the arena by holding L2. You can go anywhere in it and sort of sprint and then lock back into combat on this line when you go to press your inputs. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like,
so
really
is the
cool.
combat in this sort of arena styled, or is it turn-based?
Arena styled.
Oh, okay.
And it's really, really cool. And you can link with party members, and you can change that link mid-combo. So say Mila's got like a fire spell, but then you want to use Leia's pole, and you want to use Alvin's giant sword, and you're playing as Jude. You can knock them up, go into Mila, use a spell, quickly input to go into Leia, use her staff to knock them up higher, then use Alvin's sword to smack them into the ground. And then, if you did a combo input perfectly, meat will flow up where the character's icon appears. You press the correct corresponding button, and they go into this wicked animated movie-esque anime style combo finisher. It's so cool. Honestly, it's very, very well done. Words can't really do it justice.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the age of it as well, like, it's over 10 years old. They've implemented techniques like that.
Yeah, man, it's really good.
Really impressive.
I'd recommend it if people are looking for a JRPG but with advanced combat, because there's a lot to learn, because of course you've got your inputs that will do different moves, but then you've got your stats side of it, of course. You've got your skill trees, you've got your weapons and your equipment. There's a lot there to get into. It's really, really good for people that are into their number crunching, let's say.
Very nice.
And I think the very last thing to end on is the voice cast, because it would be criminal for me to not comment on it. If you guys know Critical Role, I didn't know this before, but 3, not just 1, I didn't know 1, but 3 of the members of Critical Role did the voices for this game. Jude, Mila, and Alvin. I only know 2 of the names, but I know Mila's voice actress is also in Critical Role. But Regal Smith of Critical Role and Matthew Mercer of Critical Role voiced. No wonder the cast are so well voiced. Did the voice acting for this game, and this was what would have been before Critical Role. So I feel like that's a really happy coincidence.
Well, you know what? It's they could have met there and been discussing it, supposedly.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I'm still shook at Matthew Mercer though, because I mean, as soon as I hear Matthew Mercer, it's like, it's Joe Turrow.
Yeah. You've got that. You got Leon Kennedy. Like,
yeah, he can do as well.
It's some amazing acting in his locker, of course. And then Regal Smith was Donatello for like I think 9 years. So the voice of Donatello that our age group, I'd say, would know him as. That's him. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
The rest of the voice cast isn't really stand out, but genuinely very, very good. So we'll do not take anything away from them. I just don't know them by name or what they're into. But there's not a bad voice here, really.
It's good.
What do you think I rated it, mate? That's how we always end here. I have mentioned it to you before we did this, of course, but I didn't. I was torn between a few numbers, and now I do have a final number in mind, and I've given it an official rank.
I think that you would have rated this. So yeah, I know you said it was 7, wasn't it, for Symphonia?
Yes.
But I think that this probably addresses a lot of the issues that Symphonia has. So I know that you went into the series as well. So I'd say a 9. I would say a 9.
You're 108. Which way are you going to go?
Ooh, that's hard. I think for the emotional connection you've had with it, 10.
Oh, I wish, mate. This one I went for an 8.
Oh, go for an 8.
But you're very close with your guess. You're very close. My reason being, the emotional connection probably bumped it up a little bit for me. I went for an 8 though, just because of the narrative being a little weaker.
Yeah.
If the narrative was an amazing sort of like some of the Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Xenoblade storylines, but with these characters and these mechanics, I think I would have been comfortable probably going at 10 actually.
Really?
But the narrative being a little weaker is sort of why I'm like, oh, okay. Then I get it might be hard for some people to get as into it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much our Tales of Xillia review, guys. Thank you for being here with us and listening, taking part. Is there anything else you wanted to add, dude?
I'm just thinking, you've rated an 8 now. If you play Xillia 2, and it does, if that expands on the actual narrative writing, I'm thinking that might be a 10.
Imagine that. Imagine. It can...
Yeah.
Surely, it can only get better, right? I'm really excited. When I do play Xillia 2, we will do a review on it. And of course, I'll get you back for it, dude. We'll do the Tales of series.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I know with... I'm just trying to think, with if you're looking for narrative, though, it can either go one or two ways with a sequel, can't it, really? It's either going to be they've run out of ideas and it's going to get worse, or it's like they've learned from it being a weaker narrative and been like, okay, we'll address this.
Yes, 100% agree, dude. It can go either way. Like, I've seen it happen in media so many times, but I feel like number 2, right, is very famous in video games for being great. Resi 2, Sonic 2. I'm just going to like list them off. Ratchet and Clank 2. The second Pokemon generation improved massively on the first. Like, all the time, I feel like number 2 does well. It's famous for doing well. It's always number 3 that's the risk. Do you know what I mean?
That's it, yeah. It's sort of like with movies, 2 is usually the make or break, whereas I think with games, it is usually 3 or even 4 sometimes. It can be the make or break.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully Tales of Xillia 2 is awesome. It'll be a while before we review this, though, guys, because what, I've got to buy it, and it's a rare game, and then 2, I've got to play it, and we know how those games are. But it'll be, I'd say this year's a good guess. Yeah, thank you. Our chat said, thank you for... it's been great tuning in, thank you. It's been great listening to us. We appreciate that. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Whether it's been casual, engaging, genuinely thank you for being here. We'll have this in VOD form as well, so if there's anything you want to go back to, or if you are tuning in and out, or you weren't here the entire time, it will be in VOD form this time. So I'm looking forward to putting that out there. And yeah, thank you for coming on, Jack. It was great having you here.
Anytime, mate. Yeah, I've enjoyed the chat. Very nice to learn a little bit about the game. I'm interested in it as a series, actually. So to play it on it.
And that's the least we could do for spreading the love for the series. Honestly, that makes me over the moon to hear. And hopefully some of you guys, if you haven't tried it out before, try Tales of Xillia. It's amazing. Try it, or just Tales of. It's a good series. You have my word. We'll be back either next week or the week after with Resident Evil 2. I'll have Jack here again. And we'll have a surprise guest as well, is probably the way to put it, right?
That'd be fun, yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun. We'll be back then. So until then, guys, take care of yourselves. Massive thank you again, Jack.
No, anytime, mate. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
And we shall see you soon. Take care, guys.
Yeah. Good evening, gamers.
Good evening, gamers. See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.